Donate and upcycle your bike today at your local bike shop. If you're considering donating your used bikes that have just been sitting there in the dusty garage or in the basement and you haven't been using them either because you got into some other activities or you've already upgraded to another bike and are just sitting there, breathe new life into that bike by donation. There's two major ways I suggest you donate your bike. We'll review that after this.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with a guy. This is As the Wheel Turns, So Do Days of Our Rides series. I will be covering topics of the industry as well as consumer views with my 30 years experience.
If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. Welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin the Guy on As the Wheel Turns, So Do the Days of Our Rides. Today we're going to talk about a topic that is very dear to my heart. And it's one of those things that if you're into cycling, if you're into the cycling community, this should touch you too. Let's review a couple of these things right off the bat. So a little bit of backstory of my personal experiences of refurbishing bikes for donation. Well, this goes back in time. Back in the 90s on Parker bikes, we had like Toys for Tots, that kind of thing in the local area of Parker, Colorado. We would bring in donations or accept donations through this event and fix them up and put in new parts or what have you to make sure they're all dialed and ready to go. And then when we did the actual event, it's usually a couple of weeks before Christmas, but sometimes this is the only gift that some of those kids are only going to have, which is extremely sad. But what a great gift to give somebody or a kid that's just getting to an opportunity to do some riding, get out there. You know, the old Schwinn posters of the kid flying down the banister and the Schwinn underneath the tree. Well, that hung in our shop, a poster of it. One of those situations where you as a mechanic or you as a cyclist enthusiast, you as an individual can actually help these communities. The reason why I'm not saying don't donate them to Goodwill or what have you, there's a place for that, but they actually put them on the floor to be sold and those monies, what have you. I'm trying to give a more of a direct approach and perspective what happens when you donate that bike to a bike shop. Okay, if you're donating to an actual charity event, like here locally, it's the Realities for Children. In Michigan, when we lived out there, there was a place, I think it was called Pace. What they did is they had bikes brought in, they refurbished them. As mechanics, we would work on them too. When you bring them to a bike shop, well, number one, they're going to get looked at for safety. Safety is always number one in the cycling community. Should be anyway. Second, it gets fixed up and so forth, inspected, and make sure it's in the functional, actually works, right? You don't want to give a bike away that doesn't work. For you as a donator, it'd be kind of nice if you just aired up the tires, that kind of thing, dust it off. So it helps us kind of identify those issues right off the bat. So if you roll in the bike, it's like, well, the front tire's not holding air, but the rear one is. We know what we can address to it because our time is very limited on working on those donations for a lot of shops because it just is. And we want to do the best we can, but we can't just be sucked into a time toilet on doing one donation. We can do like 5 or 6 at a time. Parts are usually donated by the bike shop to fix these things up. And in any case, it ends up at an event like Rails for Children, which is hundreds of bikes from several different bike shops in the community providing these used donated bikes. And it saddens me because every year they run out of bikes. Hundreds, and they still run out of bikes. And these could be, you think like kids bikes. Well, it's not always kids. You got bigger kids that need to either ride to school or ride to their job or what have you as a form of transportation. The families may not be able to support that. So even adult-sized bikes are welcome from a lot of these charities. So it's a broad spectrum from the 12-inch wheel bike kicker to the adult extra large bike. There's some bigger kids out there. So, whatever you can do to provide that is awesome. Why it hits me so hard, it's just one of those opportunities that you can give to the community and really change somebody's life. Backstory on me. Hey, I was not the greatest kid, right? I do solely admit that. I was a punk rocker in the 80s. I had some messed up things to deal with and go through myself. But when my dad opened the shop and my parents worked there and got me into there, it changed my life. It saved my life. It kept me from going paths of disarray or what have you, mischief. It actually made me the person I am today. So that has affected a lot of you out there that are in the cycling community. It's either giving you better health, better perspective. Some of you, it saved your lives. So think about it. Great opportunity to give somebody a bike. Yeah, you may be able to get something for it, but right now, the bike values on used are nothing. So you might as well just donate it and give it to somebody that actually gets some use. So think about it. There's great opportunity, and you actually can change somebody's life. Okay, the tearjerker moment is over. Let's get real here. So there's two things I want you to think about when doing this. One is to the donation route, which goes to the kids, which goes to that direction. Other one is donating to your shop. And this doesn't have to be a seasonal thing. It could be an anytime thing. And the reason why you can donate to a shop, which makes kind of sense, you're like, oh, they're going to make some money off of something I just gave them, right? Well, yes, and it also helps them to be a little more healthy. Your local shop is mostly made up of family members, and when you donate a bike that you're just going to donate anyway to a shop, it's like, hey, I want you to stick around. I have a good rapport with you. Here's a couple bikes. Hopefully this will help you make a little extra money to offset those over expenses that you're dealing with, especially in the economical hardships that a lot of bike shops are dealing with right now, from the economy to the big boys are just kind of cutting us all out. So giving that bike to the bike shop, well, number one is really gives them a very warm and fuzzy, like, really? Giving it to me? And that really opens up the doors. It's like, okay, I could just put what I need to put into it and cover my costs and provide a good solid bike for somebody just getting into cycling. So it's a win-win. Gives somebody a cheaper economical lift to get into cycling, and second, helps the bike shop with a lower price point bike, which is upcycling, reusing, right? It's one of those big, huge things we need to really consider. A lot of these bikes, if they're not used, they get aged out and damaged or what have you, and just end up in a landfill. We don't want that. Upcycle it. I can't stress more how this particular bike being donated is going to help somebody in need. I mean, it's just one of those situations that I mentioned lightly on the kids, lightly on the individuals. Also, individual that doesn't have a car or just starting out, that can't really afford rent. It can't pay for $1,500 to $2,000 bike just to commute, and even the $900 bike. So if you had a bike that you donated and the bike shop only has to put $200-300 into it for parts and labor, and they get their profit out of it, that provides a great bike for somebody for $200-300 just to get into riding or commuting or what have you. It does change people's lives. I can't stress that enough. And the local business portion of it, yes, it really helps out the local business. I mean, we already have hardships of parts and tools and labor and rent, and everything is going up. That does affect. Some shops have adapted. Some are just kind of caught with their pants down because you got the Trek and the Specialized. They were a big, strong dealer, and now all of a sudden they don't care about them, as they really now flat out just tell you, we don't care about you. We're just going to open up our own shops and go direct to consumers. So the shop really has to be innovated by doing a lot more service as well as other niche things to sustain. And getting through this hard time, a few donated bikes may help out, pay one of those kids in the back another month, or another week's worth of work for somebody. It really doesn't go into the bike shop's pockets. It really goes into the expense, because bike shop's overhead is razor thin. And when you're looking at the corporate shops, which we have a lot more margin, they're really hurting us when they're discounting all those bikes, which they kind of have to do now because they've overbought and built or whatever the case may be. Don't want to go on that right now, but a donated bike could really save a bike shop maybe a month or a week or whatever, just to get further along than through the off season. Option, there is more. More, you say? Push the more button. Push it. Push it. I dare you to push it. Once you push that button, you get more details about the video you are watching, in addition to all the tools that I use in the shop, as well as suggestion for improving your ride. In addition to help me provide advocacy in the cycling community, also links to other social media accounts as well as my website to find the products I actually sell and other insights in the industry. Other videos linked below. Extend your cycling experience here on YouTube. And now back to your original programming. And we could just say it helps the environment. You want to help the environment, right? I mean, we're not just cruel, coal-mongering machines out there. It's like the bicycle is the #1 most efficient vehicle out there. The worst is the helicopter. And that may have changed, but bicycles for the most part are good for the health, good for environment, good for mental health, commuting, freedoms, everything. It's just, you know, you get out there, you have that first experience when you're riding that bike for the first time by yourself, the wind's in your hair, and you're just cruising along. Yeah, just great. So please, if you're thinking about donating a bike or thinking about getting rid of a couple of those bikes, and you're like, should I sell them? Should I donate them? Is it really worth the time and money and that kind of thing? Hopefully this helps you understand where that bike goes. So if you're going through a charity event, you got that direction. You got to go through a donation to a bike shop. You see where that's going to actually help out there. I hope this really gives you those kinds of insights and maybe encourage you to donate those lightly used bikes that you're no longer using. It's one of those things, it's upcycling, it's recycling, it's giving somebody some life, a bike shop some life to keep going, because we need all the help we can get right now to help service communities that we service now. And if it keeps going the trajectory that it is, those shops are no longer going to be there to help you out, to service those communities, because those bigger bike shops from the big brands, they're not really out there to service the community. They're out there to sell to the community. So thanks again for hanging out with me. I hope you have a wonderful holidays coming up. There's always more to come. And hey, if you can, it's nice in your neck of the woods, go out for a ride. Enjoy the day. And upcycle if you can. Again, from the garage, thanks for hanging out with me.